Hey everyone, it's Jeff Ellis. You know me for Locked on Guards. This will be on my personal YouTube channel. I am, as you can see, I have a little nameplate there. Decided this made the most sense to do a quick mock here on draft day. I realized I really hadn't done one this year. So outside of Locked on Guardians itself, I do want to thank my friends at Prospect Live because I'm using the software they allow me to use for this quick video mock this morning. So let's start off. This draft is chaos. Let's be real honest. The lack of elite talent at the top means a lot of teams we're just not sure about. There's more smoke than ever. So I'm going to rely more than ever on data for what teams have done in the past. I do have some rumors up on the other side, so I have a mix of both. But I am going to rely a lot on previous year data. So if the first overall pick, I think there's really only one choice. I think it's going to be Cade Anderson. Last year, the Nationals went heavy into the college ranks. I know they fired their GM, but it's still the same scouting group in place. So Cade Anderson, I was looking prep from the beginning. He makes a ton of sense here. Now, the hot topic throughout for the Los Angeles Angels has been Liam Doyle. They want a guy, we know, a guy who could be in the big leagues tomorrow. And Doyle could probably do that as a pen arm. He threw a lot of innings this year. That's the danger in going with a pitcher. It's been a while since the Angels took a pitcher in the first round. Was it 2020 with Sam Bachman? That's where my gut goes. It has been a lot of bats. I know they took Ryan Anderson with one of the comp picks last year, and he started the year in the big leagues, but didn't go great. I think he was was that in the second round with Anderson? Not Anderson, Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson. But right now I lean towards Liam Doyle based on, intel, quick moving player, all that stuff. Third overall pick. Seattle has been a team that has gone heavy pitching. They've gone prep of late, which is interesting because before they went on there with Harry Ford, before that, they were the most conservative team in the draft. As a team right now, though, that goes a little bit of prep and has had much better luck developing pitchers as opposed to hitters. I think Seth Hernandez makes a ton of sense here. They've not been very age-based as well. They've just gone for guys with ceiling. That's Seth Hernandez. Colorado Rockies, Ethan Holiday. They like to draft power arms, power bats, bloodlines. It's a win for them, and they need wins. Cardinals work, it's interesting. So I was doing my deep dive research today. Cardinals have drafted a few high school guys, like in the 19th and 20th round, but haven't signed one. They have not signed, I should do it the other way, drafted and signed a high school player since Joshua Baez in 2021. He was their second round pick. That really hasn't worked out for them. So they've gone college heavy. And this goes back to a bigger point for me. Back when I was writing at Indians Baseball Insider, which no longer exists, I did a whole thing where I took 25 years, I believe, of draft data. I just added up wars. This wasn't the most sophisticated thing, but it was like from 90 to 2015. And the top two teams in baseball by far were Oakland Athletics and the St. Louis Cardinals. Were those teams the most conservative teams in the draft? St. Louis kind of got away from that for a few years and didn't have as much to show for it. I know Bloom is in charge, but he kept Randy Flores, who's been the scouting director for years there. So do things change? Do they go with Willits? I'm going to go with the crazy one here. I'm going to put Ike Irish. Why Ike Irish here? The reason I lean towards Irish over some of the other players that could be available is he was very intentional in not submitting medicals so he can sign for under 75%. It's a way that they could save money. And, if you're looking at one of those big prep shortstops, this could, I don't think they can necessarily get one down to the second round, but it gives them a lot of money to play off. Ike Irish is going to go higher than anyone expects. So I'm going to have him go here to the Cardinals. A surpriser, but they don't draft prep players in the first round. They just don't draft prep players, at all since, like I said, 2021 was the last one they drafted. 6 Pirates, Avia Arqueta. Has been connected to them a lot. They're, leaning more towards college players. They have been a high ceiling, high upside team for a few years. I think they're looking to get results and get them quicker. Miami Marlins. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. They're another high upside, high ceiling team in recent drafts. I think they're going to lean towards more ceiling. I think with Willits on the board, it becomes a fun, easy selection for them. I will caution, like I like Eli Willits a lot. There's no power in that profile, so I wouldn't be shocked if he slid a bit due to that, because you're looking at, is he he's not really a 5-tool guy. You're drafting a shortstop who should be a shortstop, hit tool speed with him. Toronto Blue Jays, I feel like just look for a college player with them. The old thing is to go with bloodlines. Jamie Arnold doesn't necessarily have the bloodlines. That'd be more Keeson Witherspoon, but Arnold is just too good to pass on at this point in the draft. Reds at 9. I feel like this is a worst case scenario for them. Everyone that has been talked about, I know a lot of Reds fans are hoping Ike Irish gets there. I just feel like he is going higher and higher on mocks at this point in time. You don't really have, the college player who makes a ton of sense at this overall selection. It's like, which way would they go when you're looking at their recent data too for the Reds? They've been pitcher, but there isn't really a pitcher here. I mean, Keeson Witherspoon is the pitcher, and that's not true. Tyler Bremner, there are pitchers here, but the way this draft came out, they've got the recent data is 3 straight pitchers after having gone with 3 straight infielders. And then with last year's draft, after they took Burns, they came back around and, they had to make sure they didn't have as much money because Burns is a big bonus guy. They came and went for high ceiling prep with Lewis. And then they went with some money, fun names for me, like guys that are kind of well-known in college, like Holman, Sirota, and Stovall. So, and I also really like Jacob Friend as a side note, who they took last year. But outside of Lewis, they didn't take another high schooler until the 10th round and then the 11th. And then they did not sign their next high school kids they drafted. So this, again, feels a little bit like a worst case scenario. I'm not going to put Summerhill there. Like I said, it's just that group where I think Irish, Hernandez, one of the arms. I think if none of them are there, I think it is Witherspoon. I think Witherspoon becomes the player they take in this scenario where you have a little bit of a sliding prep situation, which I think could happen. Preps typically do slide. It's not the college guys often slide as much as the prep talent. So now the White Sox. The White Sox are in kind of a catbird seat here. They can go for, multiple different shortstops. They can go for a high-level performer, from that group. There's still Tyler Bremner, who I really like if they wanted to go college. So the college hitters I'm not as high on at this grouping, but I think it's got to be, if you're looking at Carlson or Parker. The other interesting thing is the White Sox have stayed kind of conservative with their first round picks. They went out and took Colson Montgomery and, Noah Schwartz, though, outside of those two, it's been all college guys. And last year's draft class, the interesting thing with the White Sox too, in general, is they've been kind of following the Blue Jays and Twins and White Sox approach of like college performance and, Cape performance. They really seem to lean into Cape performance as well as contact. They did take Caleb Bonmer a year ago. And if you're going to look at this list, look at a guy who, maybe you're going for that type of high ceiling. I do think it's Billy Carlson here. Sacramento Athletics. By all accounts, this is Tyler Bremner. let's just be very honest. I think everyone's heard Bremner here. Everyone has Bremner here for a reason. Texas has been on a lot of the high school shortstop list, which is interesting because traditionally they're not a team that has gone heavy, prep ranks. They've been a very college heavy team in recent years. Their overall data is, let me pull it up. I'm trying to think even who their last first round pick was, who was a prep player, because it's, it's the Rocker. It's, more last year, Langford, Rocker, Leiter, Foscue, Young, Davis Wendell, Cole Winn in 2018. So it's been 7 years since they took and before Cole Winn, you had Bubba Thompson, Chris Cease, Cole Raggins, which worked out, but not for them. But like their run there was of really unproductive high school players for them. And then last year's class, they're picking so late. It's not like they got a chance to get a great talent. It was Malcolm Moore. And then after that, they were Devin Fitzgerald in the 5th round was a high school player. And then the 12th round, They gave extra bonus money to Josh Springer, the catcher. So they have been more of a college-heavy team. But I say all of that to say JoJo Parker's on the board. I think he becomes the selection due to, again, I don't think the college group is that great at this point. I know, I just went against everything I just said. It's okay. You can make fun of me in the comments. Giants, I don't know if anyone has a good feeling on this new Giants team and what the Giants may do. They've been tied to, a variety of players. When I go through and I kind of look, the names kind of in this round are a lot of those high school shortstops. I do think this is a team that could lean high school shortstop. And, one of the names that comes up in this range and area is Daniel Pierce. So I'm going to give him Pierce. I think they could lean into that high school shortstop group with kind of the upper crust guys gone. It's a little bit of an eye of the beholder here. Another constant in this draft is Steele Hall, reclassifier, very young, explosive speed to Tampa Bay. They went prep a year ago with Theo Gillen. It makes a lot of sense. A team that has gone back and forth kind of all over the place, but I see Steele Hall making a ton of sense here as well. Boston Red Sox. New front office comes from the Cubs. Cubs, a very heavy college team. I think Ed Howard was the last time the Cubs took a first rounder who was a prep player. So when you're looking at who's on the board here, a name that comes up a lot, I think, is, I almost grabbed the wrong Gavin Killen. Maybe not what Red Sox fans want to hear because he's not the most exciting guy, but he does everything solidly. Top 20 talent to me. I get it. I understand it. Even if others aren't necessarily getting it or understanding it, it makes a lot of sense, I think, in the overall value of what's here. I think Merrick Houston could also be a guy who makes a ton of sense, but I do feel like he's sliding a bit. Minnesota Twins. Twins can kind of be all over the place, but I do think we've heard them connected a bunch with Brendan Summerhill, someone that a lot of teams like. He has a good approach. There is almost no power in it. Maybe they can find a way to tap into it. He would be weird in that regard for them because they do typically go for guys who. So here's why I'm conflicted, because Summerhill is who they're connected to. They don't mind guys. They like power and guys who don't chase. So in a lot of ways, their guy is more Wahiwe Aloha. So I'm going to go with my gut here. I'm going to switch. I was going to go with the consensus, but this is more their type of guy. They have taken, Kalen Culpepper, for all of his plus traits up the middle a year ago, is a guy who would still expand the zone. Wahiwe Aloha does expand the zone. I'm going to go off board, at least go away from consensus. You got the Cubs at 17. I think I will give them Summerhill. Again, a very conservative team overall, a team that tends to draft more of a college performer. I think Summerhill is going to go somewhere in this top 20. He is not for me, but he is a player that makes sense in this range. Arizona Diamondbacks. This is a team that has been linked to a few different players late in the process. Caden Bodine being one of the most specific. They have not added catchers in recent years. There was talk they wanted to add one last year and didn't get one because, I don't blame them for taking Slade Caldwell and Ryan Goldschmidt. Those were just guys who fell in their lap. But Bodine's, he's going up because he's a no-doubt catcher. He just doesn't have any power. He's going to be a below league average hitter more than likely, but most catchers are. And there's a chance for a plus defender and, maybe like a 10% below league average catcher, which would probably still make him a top 7 catcher in baseball. Oh, Baltimore. So Baltimore has a type. That's why everyone wants to give him Jace Lavalette, because they just want to go for power, and more power. And let's also be honest, that is an approach that really has not worked out for them. The Jude Fabians, the Vance Honeycutts. Enrique Bradfield, who is not that type of guy at all, who was a first-round pick for them, is actually one of their best prospects. The other thing is, in terms of first-rounders, this current front office has only taken Jackson Holiday. Last year's draft class, in classic Orioles fashion, they took Honeycutt, who is a slider with big time power, but I had him off my board. Then they went for they took every single guy that I was lower than the field on with their top 4 picks. They went for guys who had better sophomore years than junior years. And if you're going to go for a guy who had a better sophomore than junior year, it's Jace Lavalette. The Brewers at 20. Now, the Kings of Conservative, until last year, where they went and grabbed a guy that none of us expected with that pick. It was one of the bigger surprises in round one when they went and got Braylon Payne. Yes, their comp picks, they have gone with guys like McCaig and Mizorowski and some of those. Well, I thought Mizorowski was a competitive balance pick, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just their second rounder. But they have like their prep players have not been. Oh, this is last year's class. That's the problem. I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, they took McCaig was their second round pick. I was like thinking about the next year. But yeah, that's where they typically go with them until last year, where they actually went out and grabbed the prep player with the top overall pick. And there's my 4-year-old. I apologize if you can hear him being unhappy. So when you're looking at the Brewers overall, what they do is before they took Josh Noth a few years ago, it was Terang. So Terang in 2018 and then Payne in 2024. And in between, it was just college performers. Blake Burke, power guy. Brock Wilken, power guy. Eric Brown, contact. Sal Frelick, contact. Tyler Black, contact. So, yeah, they could be all over the place. Is basically the long and short of this. Like, what might they go with? Now, they have not taken a pitcher with their top overall section since Ethan Small in 2019. So there is that. The other side of it, when I look at them, is like, which college player could potentially make sense to them. I really feel like Devin Taylor is their type of guy, but I also have had zero connection with him, with Devin Taylor to them. So when you're looking at some of the players on the board, what they might go with, what could make sense, I'm going to throw Merrick Houston. Another weight guy for them, does not have power, more their previous approach with contact. I feel like a lot of the guys I had going before could be in play there. And if they wanted to go with prep speed, none of the shortstops are really there, are the speed guys. Maybe Gage Wood would make sense. Again, Devin Taylor feels like a guy who makes sense, but there's been literally no connection. So watch that be the selection. Just because I'm like, it can't be that, because I have heard literally nothing connecting those two. But he does feel like their type of player, but he is not a guy I've seen connected with them at all. So I'm doing the opposite of the Twins pick here. I'm kind of going with more of the consensus, the board. Astros have been all college, all the time. And when you go through their list last year, they did not select a high school player until the 17th round. And for a team that's always looking to, kind of add players that might be able to get up, help, and get there quickly, I thought Andrew Fischer could be in play here, but I haven't seen that, just because, I thought they've had consistent problems at first base, and you're just looking for a guy who can hit and maybe move quickly. They do like athletic traits as well. It makes it a little bit confusing. It's like who fits, like who is on this board that could be their type. They have not they took Ryan Farcucci, who was hurt last year in the second round. The last pitcher they took was JB Bukowskis in 2017 in the first round, then Forrest Whitley before that. You have to go down to Brady Aiken for the third most recent. They've been about bats, guys who could move quickly, play quickly. I'm going to go with the gut here, because if you're looking at the rumors, maybe Ethan Conrad makes sense here. So I'm going to put Conrad to them. Maybe they're able to cut a little bit of a deal. Big kid, chance to maybe buy low on his talent and ability. Atlanta Braves. Where's Gage Wood? Just pitching, more pitching. Sorry, Braves fans. Pitching. Kansas City, another consensus one. Cruz Schoolcraft. They're trying to get him to here. They like left-handed pitchers. He's a big lefty. They like big left-handed pitchers. Makes too much sense. Easy. Move on. Detroit. Detroit is in, you want a left-handed hitter at this point in the draft. That is what Detroit does. They're all about adding, another left-handed bat. And, it kind of comes down to, for me, at least knowing them, it's like that takes Gavin Fein off the board. So you're looking Slater DeBrun, you're looking at Kason Cunningham. They've gone for more hit tool over power tool with these early picks. So Kason Cunningham to them. San Diego. Slater DeBrun was taller. He'd probably already be off this board. He's an interesting player, an interesting prospect, high ceiling player. San Diego hasn't had problems with size. I think he makes a lot of sense for them. Phillies. So will they go prep, or will they go with, a college player? Last year, they went with kind of off the board prep outfielders with those top 2 picks. I did not expect either of them. I would argue those were the biggest surprises to me at that point in the draft. They've been very heavy high school these past few years. So when you're looking at the board, I think the guy who kind of fits their mold is Gavin Feen. We know the mold is either super athletic outfielders, which is what they did last year, or it's big armed pitchers. There's not really that guy here, or it's power, and that's Feen. Cleveland Guardians on the clock at 27. I've seen so many things to Cleveland, and I am not entirely sure what I think they're going to go with here. I think their hope is just to sit there and see who falls their way. A hot name for them late in the process is Anthony Ianson from LSU. I'm really hoping that's not the case. We talked to Brady Eaple and Tatum Gray on the podcast. JD Thompson, Cody Bowker, guys that I talked about, Bowker in particular, because of the great cape. If I'm sitting here looking at this board, I want Devin Taylor no matter what. I don't know and Devin Taylor fits a lot of what they like. Now, I have not heard him connected at all with them, but I will say this, like last year, they picked first overall. When they picked Ralphie Velasquez, there was zero connection there. And then they popped him. So when you're looking at Cleveland, it at this point in the draft, it really comes down to 2 guys when I'm looking at this board. Devin Taylor fits a lot of what they look at. Great in the Cape, cold weather, performed, in every situation setting, A+ human. Josh Hammond, a very athletic kid, lots of power, it's everything with him is rising late in the process. So this is the thing where I'm locked on Guardians. So I spend more time on, Guardians players and the Guardians as a team. I think the thing here is my heart says Devin Taylor because I'm very high on him, but I do think they're in a situation. They have gone prep a little more heavily of late. I'm going to give him Josh Hammond, coach's son, really good tools, has a wide range on the board. Kansas City coming back here at 28. They have been connected with prep talent. Let's see, I had them going with the prep pitcher early. I think Xavier Nyans being on the board just makes it a nice, easy pick for them at this point if you're going to go for a prep player. Baltimore. So who would Baltimore be eyeing at pick 30? Who is someone who is kind of a expensive player? There isn't a great, they're going for, extra spending with some of those picks. So I'm going to give them Andrew Fischer because they've always gone for power. When you're looking at, so if I come up here and click on results very quickly, back-to-back power picks for them makes sense. Did I click the wrong guy oh no, that's going to be annoying. So Arizona at 29, I must have double misclicked. So it's not Zach Root. I'm sorry, everyone. I had a moment of distraction. That's frustrating. I don't want to redo this whole thing to have, correct wrong. So, hey, everyone ready for I don't want to redraft. I just don't. So ignore Zach Root at 29. No, that is an error. At 29, I would instead have them get, that's going to annoy me, Andrew Fischer at 29. So Andrew Fisher's at 29. At 30, instead, now I have Oakland in a situation where they would take Sean Gamble. If you saved all that money to come back and get a prep player with some ceiling and upside, I think Gamble would make the most sense. And there's some talk that he's going to be hard to acquire. So Gamble going instead. So you have, again, because I don't want to redo all of this and have to remember my order and all of that I had a misclick. So we're going to have Andrew Fischer 29 and 30 be Sean Gamble. So now we come back to 31, which I guess I could give him Gamble here. But again, if you like power, you like college performers, Luke Stevenson being on the board. I have some issues with some of his data, but draft eligible, sophomore. You can never have too many catchers. I think he could make a lot of sense for them at this point in the class. The Brewers, I'm going to give him Devin Taylor here. All the reasons I said why he could make a ton of sense to them later, Devin Taylor. So then you got Boston coming back around. And the Red Sox, again, a team that where they come from, what they're doing. Give them Canarilla from Clemson, who could be a great buy low candidate. Pirates. Nope, that's not right. It's the Detroit Tigers. So I'm looking at Detroit last year. Did they go back to back prep last year? I cannot remember. Or was it 2 years ago where they did that? I know it was 2 years ago. Was it also last year? Yep, because they went Owen Hall, and then they went Scheifelebein, another Corona high school guy. So they went prep, and more prep. So at this point, I don't have Gamble because he is off the board, but Zachary Root is on the board. You're looking for a left-handed bat more than likely. So if I'm considering a left-handed hitter at this point in the class, I know who makes sense, who I kind of like. I am 99% sure that Fauski is a left-handed bat. Let me just double-check that over on the secondary computer. Come on. Yep. Fauski it is. He fits Detroit's style. Seattle. So they went Singello, then they went Ryan Sloan a year ago, pitcher. This year I had them going with the college guy. So then we come back around, like who would be the hitters that make the most sense at this point in the draft? If we believe they're going to go with hitter, Devin Taylor being off the board, you're probably looking at Alex Ladosi, a player of that level. If they go pitcher, there's a few more interesting pitchers. Would they go back-to-back pitchers? Could I make it easy on myself and give them Zachary Root? Because the hitter group, I'm not loving. Patrick Forbes is another really interesting guy who has a lot of fans in this range. They've been linked to quite a few players, if we're being honest. And it's just that situation where they went pitcher a year ago. There's some hitters they like this year. If they're kind of looking for a power hitting infielder, I'm going to give them Alex Ladosi from Florida State, knowing that there's a good chance that could be a college arm. Twins are here. Very Twinsian type, young for the class, is Ianson. So that makes sense. Baltimore again. And this is where I have to go back and remember everyone I've taken with Baltimore, which is Lavalette, Stevenson, and Gamble. So come back around. And this does feel like the range of a potential pitcher. They have not taken a ton of pitchers, but they're in a good spot to kind of come and get one here. I've had them go all bats, so it feels like a good spot for a pitcher. I'm just like, how much do they want to mess with someone? Let's give them Patrick Forbes, because I feel like a lot of teams really want Forbes, and Forbes is like the rumor is everyone, of course, is Forbes to the Dodgers. Now, they can't get Forbes to the Dodgers in this situation, so instead I have Forbes going here, that they kind of pick the Dodgers' pockets. The Mets, I've heard nothing. And so we got Stearns here with the Mets, who a year ago, we know with Milwaukee was conservative. I really like Carson Benj, who I believe I want to say was their first round pick last year, right? And they did not take a high school kid, though they did give a lot of money to Trey Snyder in the 5th round, give him $1 million+, but that was their first high school kid, and they only signed one other high school player, and that was for slot in the 18th round. So when I'm looking at this, I am leaning towards the college ranks. It went hitter, pitcher. If I felt more confidently about some of these college outfielders, I think I would go to them, just because they have, when he was with the Mets, they took a lot of outfielders, college outfielders and college infielders. I know that's everything, but up the middle talent, I should say. Dean Curley, I just don't know his position. Mason Neville is high risk, high reward. He had kind of a weak Cape performance. Question becomes, like, do I believe that they could go with a pitcher here? And I just, that's my confliction, as it were, is I just don't know what pitcher makes a ton of sense. I'm gonna go with the weird one. at least what might on paper appear as a weird one. Keep hearing one name pop high in this draft. That's Charles Davalon from Arkansas. Does a bit of everything, was okay in the Cape. He's undersized. He is 5'9", not 5'10". He just feels like the guy the Brewers would have drafted a few years ago when Stearns was running the show. That's my whole insight with that selection. Yankees on the clock. The Yankees went with a ton of pitching recently, and they can always add more pitching, and I kind of lean towards them with more pitching here. Personally, I think Riley Quick is better than Zach Roots. I'm going to give him Riley Quick, the Alabama big-time arm. And then we have the Dodgers at 40, who, again, I think everyone has Patrick Forbes kind of tied to them. That is the hot rumor of the day. You're kind of Quentin Young has had some run with them as well. And, when you look at speed is kind of their calling card in these drafts. If they go for prep player, I don't see that like speed player. That was Kendall George 2 years ago when they went with speed, and just stands out in terms of that type of profile. And then last year was Kellen Lindsey, also a speed guy. They went with a lot of high school players. When you're looking at this draft, again, Sean Gamble off the board. I don't see a great speed type of guy. One of my favorites would be Ryan Mitchell. I keep wanting to say Nick Mitchell, but that's an outfielder in Cleveland system. Ryan Mitchell could make some sense as a speedy infielder. Their last pitcher they took with the first round selection. I was trying to remember that. If it was that Bruns, right? Yeah, Maddox Bruns, who was high school. So they've gone, if we don't count 2020, because that's a weird draft, you have to go back to 2019 was the last time they didn't go prep early. So I'm going to lean towards prep with them, because that's what we've seen with them. A team that likes prep, that likes tools, likes speed. I'm going to go with Ryan Mitchell. I am. I'm going to take Mitchell. He's the athletic up the middle talent that fits what they have done with some of their other picks. Guys like Kellen Lindsey and Kendall George. His name doesn't begin with a K. I don't have a good prep player. His name begins with K to fit the other recent trend. Please note, I'm joking. Maybe Kyle Ladosi, but he's not a prep player. So that gets me the Dodgers at 40. So then I have to figure out what they would do at 41. And the interesting thing is, I forgot that they have this pick from the trade with the brain cramp with the Reds. It's the Gavin Lux trade. So I've got him taking the prep player earlier. The other name that comes up with them, go back-to-back prep maybe. Why can I not see? Let's go with Quentin Young. Let's do it. Big-time power, big gamble, back-to-back prep. Tampa Bay Rays. We got this in their trade with Oakland. See, way back at him taking Steele Hall, right? That was the player to them at this point in the draft. So what have they done in comp rounds in recent years? And what did they do last year after Theo Gillen? If I'm over here on Baseball Reference, I have to go look up Devil Rays, not Rays, because they refused to change that in their system. So 3 out of their 4 top picks, so they didn't sign Tyler Bell, who was their comp pick in the B round, were high school kids. And they took Nathan Flying in the 3rd round. So I'm gonna go a little bit crazy here. We give him Tainton Gray. And the reason I'm going to go with Gray here is I think, if they like Nathan Fluelling, who they took, I know last year in the 3rd round, bit of a difference. Gray is kind of in this round. Big kid, super athletic, massive exit velocities. Just a lot of that was what Fluelling did a year ago at the draft combine, putting on a show. If they're looking for some high ceiling prep talent, big time power, Tainton Gray stands out. And we know they took Xavier Isaacs, another potential power hitter, with that pick overall. That leaves us with the last pick of day 1. Nope, that's not true. Day 1's going to go forever this year. Day 1 goes to the 3rd round. It's going to be, I got to be honest, I feel like tonight's show is going to make the NHL one look like they put on a good show. I don't think they realize how long the draft is going to go this year. I don't. I feel like this is going to be a draft that goes on and on and on. It's a lot of picks to get in one night. The front office in Miami a year ago, they went with, I want to say, back-to-back prep players, right? When they took a bit of a surprise with Morlando. I mean, a big surprise with Morlando. And then came back and got Carter Johnson, who I really liked in the second round, and gave him a significant chunk of money. So I don't know if I want to say those are both more polished prep hitters, but there was a degree of polish with them. Some guys that kind of know the skill set and know what they have. I'm not going to give them Zach Roots. I'm just going to mess up my whole list. So basically, well, the nice thing is you move up Fischer and then you put in Gamble for Zach Root. And I've got Zach Root going in the second round. I would think, a year ago, they started off with 2 polished hitters. I don't know if there's really a pitcher anyways that I'm like in love with for them with this selection. If you're looking at that prep hitter group, I'm just kind of doing the quick scan and see like my number one player from the prep hitter group at this point. I don't actually know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at my list. It might be Southacene. Lucas Franco here took his name out of the draft, just as a side note. Like, is there someone I really like who's maybe, because I love Prospects Live. Again, thank them for having access to this tool. But sometimes, not everyone agrees. That's the way of life. And we can be respectful and kind in spite of that. So if I come back around and I'm going to go Southacene here. Older brothers. He's got twin older brothers. One was Ty, who went to the Cubs. T is going to USC. So, yeah, this is our mock. You can go through and see the whole list here. I don't know if I need to necessarily how long. 36 minutes in. I don't know if I need to run through it. I'll just scan it. You can see first round mock. Again, the only change is we're going to have these here. Andrew Fischer to 29 and 30 being Sean Gamble. That Baltimore decided to take a prep player. They got all those picks. They're using some of the money there. But yeah, you can tell me why I'm an idiot. That's the more often the comment than why someone likes what I'm doing. I've just established that's the internet. Quick rundown. Anderson 1 because they went very college heavily a year ago. 2, Doyle, Angels, because everyone believes that's happening. Hernandez 3. They took Ryan Sloan last year, gave him a lot of money in the second round. They've done really well with pitching. 4, Holiday, because everyone agrees. St. Louis has not taken a prep player, just a prep player since 2021. Irish gives them a chance to really spread their bonus around and is a name on the rise. Pittsburgh, starting to feel under the gun. Add a hitter. That team needs hitting. Marlins, Eli Willett slides to them. They're happy to take him. Blue Jays, college performer, and Arnold would not be shocked if it's Witherspoon because of their love of bloodlines and younger players. Reds at 19. I think they're just going to see who's on the board. I got Witherspoon here because he's the last of that college group, and they've been more college than prep heavy outside of Sal Stewart. White Sox at 10. Carlson slid. They jump. I feel like outside of, maybe JoJo Parker, he made the most sense there. Everyone's got the athletics on Bremner. Texas, they have been more college heavy, but Parker is too good of a value. I think they might go for him there. Pierce to the Giants. They seem to be in on the prep shortstops. It's a new front office. It's hard to gauge, but they seem more prep heavy. Steel Hall, everyone's in on that to Tampa. High upside, reclassify, lots of speed. Boston, front office pieces came from the Cubs. It's conservative front office. Gavin Killen, high-level performer. Twins like power, don't mind chase. Most people have Summerhill, but I'm going with Aloha for his power. Summerhill to the Cubs, conservative group. Diamondbacks were in on a lot of catchers a year ago, missed out. I think they jump on Bodine with the opportunity here. Baltimore, it's the easy cheat, right? Like they're the team that looks past red flags and sells out for power. Merrick Houston to Milwaukee. Don't love this one. Got to be honest. Not a lot of power there. They have gone to Wake in the past, and they have gone for contact-heavy profiles. Hasn't always worked out. There is a lot of Eric Brown here, which may not be what Brewers fans want to see. Houston, if you are Houston and you feel like you still have a window and you're still competing this year and next year and you're kind of doing this reload on the run type of deal, right? Like Ethan Conrad is a player whose value is going to stay that you can flip in a year. If you want to maximize trade potential, it might be Conrad. Or he could be a guy because he's not a quick to the majors guy due to his injury and the fact that he basically played most of his college career at Marist. I like Conrad a lot, but I think, there is a logic to this here. I would not be shocked if it's Andrew Fischer. If they want quick moving bat. Gage Wood, the Braves like pitching. Wood is here. It's a risk, but they have also not had problems with undersized guys. Everyone has Schoolcraft to Kansas City. Detroit wants a left-handed high school guy. They're like hit tool first. Padres, Slater DeBrun. He is athletic, up the middle, high school kid. Phillies, power, fiend. Cleveland, I wanted to put Taylor because he fits, but I also feel like Hammond could make sense in terms of their going for ceiling. They've gone for a little more prep in the first round. They've taken a little bit more risk as well in round one. They've actually taken a lot of risk over the past few years. Kansas City, after taking Schoolcraft, then come back, get a prep hitter with some power and nines. 29th pick here. This is Andrew Fischer. I've got Arizona going back-to-back with college guys. Gives them a quick-moving power bat. Another first base prospect. Someone who, I wouldn't say next year could help fill that void at first base, but they've got an owner who wants to win now. This is a pick that allows them to move quick. So then 30 instead, Sean Gamble, the high-ceiling prep player who could be a big money signing to Baltimore. Then Baltimore coming back and taking another guy with power and warts, but who plays a premium position, and Luke Stevenson. They have some interesting catchers already, and I'm just going to throw this out there. Like, it would not shock me if that's a team that shopped Rushman in this offseason or next year if they feel like the next wave is ready to hit, give them another catcher in their system. Devin Taylor. I talked about how he feels like a Brewers type of guy earlier. He's on the board. Put him on to them here. Cam Canarilla. Terrible exit velocities. Does everything else well. Could be a buy low candidate. Tigers. You can tell this is no script. Quick off the head. Fauski, left-handed hitting high school guy. Mariners debated a lot of pitching here, but if they go with a bat, the talk earlier was Arqueta here at 3, and I almost did that. So if you're looking for an infielder with power at this point in the draft, it's Ladosi. There is some risk of expanding the zone, but they've taken other guys who expand the zone. Twins, Anthony Eisen. He is, one of the youngest players in the class. He's been a very hot name in the last few weeks, last week in particular. He could go a lot higher than this. Forbes, a lot of teams a little bit lower want him. He's got one of the better fastballs in this class. There's a lot of outcomes for him to be successful, even if it's as a reliever. Very athletic player. Baltimore, a few years ago, Baltimore wanted to get Jude Fabian when he was draft eligible sophomore. Boston took him. It's one of those things I mention all the time because Boston took and then would not give Fabian what he wanted. That's why he went back to school, and Baltimore got him the next year. It's a chance for Baltimore now to pick someone's pocket. Mets, Charles Davelin, just feels like a Stearns type of selection when he was in Baltimore. That guy who could be an infielder, could be an outfielder, good hit tool, not much power, plays all over, does the little things. Yankees have been about, those high-performing SEC arms in the past few years. They took Ben Hess last year, and Ben Hess, I want to say, was Alabama as well. I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm really bad at remembering those things. That's what happens when you get in your mid-40s. So this would give them a chance to go back-to-back years from Alabama. Yeah, he was from Alabama. I guess I should trust myself a little more. I really like Riley Quick. 3-star high school recruit as an offensive lineman. His brother was an offensive lineman, 4-star recruit at Bama. I think this would be a fantastic pick for the Yankees. I also love Ryan Mitchell. Dodgers like athleticism and up-the-middle talent. That is Mitchell. I didn't really love, I like J.D. Thompson a lot. He doesn't feel like a Dodgers type of guy. I like J.B. Middleton a lot. Doesn't feel like a Dodgers type of guy. Zach Root, again, there's a high reliever risk. This doesn't feel like a Dodgers guy. Mitchell with athletic traits, Dodgers guy. Quentin Young has had some ties to the Dodgers. A lot of athleticism. I would love it. They let him stay at shortstop for as long as he can last as a 6'6" guy who plays shortstop. A lot of swing and miss, a lot of risk, but if he hits, he could be special. More power, back-to-back power picks. Tampa has gone for some power in this comp round in the past. Gray is rising after a fantastic combine, kind of put his name out there, let people go back and look at a 6'5" switch hitting catcher / outfielder who had some of the best exit velocity of any player at the combine. Also young for the class, just a lot of positive traits that make a lot of sense for a team like Tampa. And then the Marlins last year, back-to-back prep, kind of more polished types. And I have him there. So again, comment, do whatever you want to do. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You can make fun of the fact that this is, again, it's quick, it's off the cuff. I've got to take my daughter to swim class in about 10 minutes, but I wanted to get out of recording on draft day this year. Also, I want to say we're going to do we're going to stream the entire draft on Locked On Guardians. So make sure you go and check that out as well. We are going to do all of day 1 and all of day 2, and it's going to be nuts. So I hope you'll join us. And again, I hope you enjoyed. This is more of a fun thing. got all of the tendency data over here, have my spreadsheet over here with all the rumors from my buddies in the industry. Use the two and tried to get to a point where we'd have a fun and interesting discussion. Thank you all for joining me, and happy draft day.